back, guys. I've got a woolly hat on again because it's absolutely freezing, pouring of rain. I'm supposed to be mowing the lawn. Let's hope it dries out. Let's talk about a bird it's really changed just in my lifetime as a falconer. So the kestrel. Here in the UK, it's the kestrel, isn't it? Do we need to say Eurasian kestrel? Not really, but we can say American kestrel or Mauritius kestrel, should we wish to differentiate. Falcotununculus, guys. Kes. If you haven't seen the film Kes or read the book that the film comes from, as a falconer, I think you're missing out. As a historian, you're missing out. To do with literary and English, you're missing out. That film was so gritty. It was as good as, I think, a fly on the wall, real life documentary. Amazing film, very cleverly done. It was the inspiration for many a falconer, just that little bit older than me, to actually one day become falconers, to work with birds of prey. And back then, a kestrel would have been a very good bird as a beginner's bird. Why? Because it was probably the most easily available and the least expensive. Nowadays, in a world where breeders can produce almost any species of bird of prey that you care to think of or work with, certainly now in the UK in 2023, 24 and so on, this kind of era now, when so many breeders have become so good at producing birds of prey, there's far more birds to choose from that certainly financially would be inexpensive and probably offer you more in many ways than a kestrel. And therefore, the kestrel is bred less and less. Probably not that easy to get hold of right now in the UK. Remember, here we only work with captive bred birds of prey. Not only that, that bird that seemed a good beginner's bird 30 or 50 years ago because it was easy to obtain and inexpensive, really isn't. Because to fly a bird of prey well, you need to understand its mentality, its physical ability, its physiology, its body condition. And generally, we get an insight into that by weighing our birds to tell us where the bird's appetite is at any point throughout the day or throughout the week. A bird that weighs about 7 ounces, I'm not going to say kestrels weigh this much, because that again confuses beginners for sure. A bird that weighs about 7 ounces is incredibly difficult to keep flying and working well. That's why nowadays we'd never recommend a beginner started with a small bird, and that's why the sort of very reasonable sized Harris hawk that's easy to train has become known as the beginner's bird. Back in the day, we would probably say to people, look, get yourself a common buzzard. It'll be better and hardier and withstand your mistakes way more than anything like a kestrel. So what does a kestrel offer us now if we can just go and get a Harris's hawk? Common buzzards. You find one of those captive bred in the UK, hardly anyone breeds them. They stopped breeding them because a Harris hawk became more popular. It became the go-to bird for many, many people, certainly most novices. So what does the kestrel offer you now in the UK as a bird to keep? As a beginner's bird, if you had a really good mentor and you were the 1% of beginners in falconry here in the UK that really, really have put the time in, and I mean over a year, the time in to study internet, books and real life study with a mentor or just getting out among falconers to really do your research, and you desperately want a bird of prey, then you could, of course, fly a kestrel. It's maybe, if it's flying at 7 ounces, maybe at 6 ounces, it'll be pretty much dead. You haven't got a big window of weight, but of course, a dedicated novice could learn to fly a kestrel. The food van's here. Could learn to fly a kestrel. But why would you now? And this is the thing. Where does a kestrel fit? Why would you? Because you could have a Harris hawk. You can have a Lanner falcon, much bigger, much easier to work with. So the kestrel has fell out of favour because of this. Why would you? So what could you get from a kestrel? Well, a very, very, very good novice, or someone like myself and my colleagues that work with birds of prey in education and for displays and so on. a kestrel, for me, being British straight away, it's the bird of everyone's childhood that grew up around Northamptonshire. In fact, when I was a kid, it was the only bird of prey you were going to see actually spending its time living here in Northamptonshire. Pretty much the only thing you'd see. So it's got the nostalgia factor from my point of view. It's also got the fact it's British. For me, I work with birds and animals from all over the world. British wildlife is my key thing. It's the thing I want to show my customers, my kids at school. British wildlife is more important to anyone in Britain than any other wildlife in the world. It has to be. If you don't care about British wildlife, I can't get you to care about any wildlife for sure. So the kestrel's got the nostalgia. It's got the fact I can talk about things that live in Britain and show people tangibly up close a real live kestrel. What else does it add to falconry? Well, it is a beautiful bird to fly and work with. They've got a slightly very cute, amiable character rolled in with a very much kind of a little Jack Russell in a tiny body as well. So they're lovely birds to work with. They're incredibly beautiful. In the world of birds of prey, a male kestrel is up there with the most beautiful, colouring-wise, birds of prey for sure. That lovely big tail too. So you've got the beauty, you've got the interest. From a flying point of view, what have you got? Well, you've actually got a bird that'll fly to you quite easily, to your glove. It'll follow you on and be a pleasurable bird just to be out in a nice little bit of countryside or a field with. But you know what? You can learn to swing a lure with a kestrel. And if you've got the knack and you've researched lure swinging, you've practiced your lure swinging, a kestrel can make a dynamite lure bird. In fact, a good falconer with a good kestrel, with a good commentary, could probably wow any audience. Flying a kestrel to the lure. They hover, takes a lot of work to get a captive kestrel, a captive bred kestrel, a trained kestrel to hover, but they hover fantastically. They stoop to the lure. Absolutely beautiful birds to fly and work with. You could get a Lanner falcon. It's going to weigh maybe, I don't know, 1 pound 5 ounces. You're not going to... Honestly, the noise factor in here, if there's a funny noise, it was an air freshener. It was not me. A Lanner falcon for a beginner. If you want to fly falcons and you don't want to go hunting particularly, and you don't want to hawk, you want to fly a falcon, and that's what you want to do. Lanner falcon, lugger falcon even. Brilliant birds. Lanner falcon, lugger falcons, they'll fly fantastically. They've got enough weight that you can make a few errors on your weight management. You've got a bigger bird to work with. So again, with these captive bred birds being mass produced, it's so easy to get a Lanner falcon nowadays. Why would you get a kestrel? And it's always that thing, you've got to want these animals. Don't chop and change them. But it's fallen out of favour because there's more options available. I would say fly a kestrel if you're good enough. Don't fly a kestrel if you've got doubts or worries. You'll probably kill it through bad weight management. But kestrels fly to the lure mega in the right hands. Hunting. Why would you buy a kestrel for hunting? When I was a kid, kestrels were here, sparrows and starlings were common. There was one in my lower school playground, a kestrel that would regularly dive into the hedge and take sparrows. No, it wasn't a sparrowhawk. We didn't even have sparrowhawks around here. Kestrels will hunt birds, but they're tuned to hunting invertebrates on the ground and small mammals on the ground. If you want to hunt with a kestrel, a Eurasian kestrel, a British kestrel, there really is almost no point. Unless it's all you've got, there just isn't any point hunting with one. You could hunt with a sparrowhawk, but you're not to be a novice. You'll kill a sparrowhawk on weight management alone unless you're an expert level falconer. But you could hunt with an Aplomado falcon, male or female. Even a male's weighing in at 8 ounces, and it's certainly a lot stockier and better built than a kestrel. Probably a better option. Female flying at 13 ounces. If you want to hunt off the glove with a small falcon, Aplomado, but very expensive, or just as inexpensive as a kestrel, you could buy an American kestrel, even smaller. Females probably about 5.5 ounces, 5 ounces, I can't remember, and I'm not telling you bang on weights. But an imprinted female, males are tiny, American kestrel, is a rapacious hunter. You could, if you could manage the weight of a kestrel, you could manage the weight possibly of an American kestrel. That bird will catch stuff. Birds as big as itself or twice the size. For hunting with a kestrel, the American kestrel, realistically, pounds our British Kestrels into the ground, Falco tununculus. They're just not set up for that. So there is no point. I think unless you just want a massive challenge for sure. So really, get yourself a Kestrel. If you want a British bird, you want to do a bit of education, you just love their amazing personality, and you want to fly it for a beautiful companion, a bird of prey to work with, fly and train. Sparrowhawks just seem so similar, don't they? And they're such dynamite hunters. Don't confuse the two. The sparrowhawk is a true accipiter, a true hawk, psychologically highly strung, lives on its wits. No, it doesn't really. It lives on its reactions and its instincts. Remember the falcons, whether it's a tiny little kestrel to a really big peregrine or saker or jur, it's actually, realistically, more closely related to the parrot family than it is the accipiters. Yes, they're birds of prey, but the falcons think they're way more chilled out than any accipiter, way more. A kestrel, once you've had it a couple of weeks, they don't need to be imprinted. Our kestrels, Falco tununculus, they don't need to be imprinted. A few days training a parrot-red kestrel, it's going to be absolutely chilled out and bomb-proof if you do the work properly, because you've understand and researched falconry. And it won't care about however big your dog is, it just won't care. It will sit on its block, chill out. Give it a block about 3 meters, about a metre tall, 3 feet tall. It'll feel way happier than sitting on a little block on the ground. Get it a high block. Brilliant birds. I'm going to cut now into Emily flying our kestrel. He's about 15 or 16 years old, probably older. He's very old. He's got stiff wings. It takes him longer to get going after his winter rest, but he's just getting in the swing of things. Nothing like his best. But to show you, they are still beautiful birds to fly. Kestrels, I think they should stay being captive bred here. People should be flying them, or we'll just lose them. If no one buys them, breeders won't breed them, and then we'll never be able to get our hands on this wonderful British bird, only for the 1% of expert novices. Everyone else, really, yeah, start with something bigger, guys. Was he just doing that to you with the door hidden?
Yeah, no, he does it if you try and make him hover longer than he wants to. Sits down and stops.
Flying beautifully though, isn't he? You know.
Yeah, this is actually still the best
Little tired wings now.
Oh! That was awful.